Don't panic.
Don't panic. Although I love that opening music. I feel so official when it comes on.
Yes, 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 yes.
I love that.
So we were visiting, and the reason for the title today, "Don't Panic," is it has to do everything with finance, about finances and the financial situation, and what's going on in our economy, in the world economy, and everything else. And so many of you may be or are thinking about investing in stocks, bonds, all that kind of stuff. You have retirement, you have 401ks, and you're panicking. You don't know what to do. And so, Linda, I mean, we're not financial planners, but what have you been told?
I checked in with my financial advisor, and I'm actually doing better than I expected.
Hmm?
Number one. And number two, she said, if you don't touch it, you don't lose anything.
Right.
She said it will rebound. It always does.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I remember that from years ago, and I'm not real savvy on investing in the stock market and that kind of stuff. But the one
Right.
thing I always remembered was it's not a loss unless you take the money out.
Unless you take money out. I have a very dear friend who is a financial advisor for one of the big companies, and I always use her with my financial coaching clients, those that do not have financial planners or are not in with somebody, because I trust her. She has our stuff. She has what little we have left, and then she also has some funds for our grandkids. So we started them basically when they were born. Very minimal investment right now, but we also know that by the time they go to college, their college fund will be there. But especially during COVID, so we're talking, but that's been 5 years.
5 years, I know.
Holy Moses, Amos. Wow. Anyway, so I had a couple of clients. I had one client who had several 401ks and mutual funds and stuff like that, and she was combining them all. And she had been not very well taken care of in the past, single, taking care of her parents, doing very well. And I told her I would talk to my friend, and I did. And my financial planner friends she said, ask her one question. Are you losing sleep over it at night? That makes sense.
Mm.
If you're losing sleep, then you better do something because you're stressing over it. But my client was not. And I said, then don't worry about it. Okay. And so she never did. But what she did do is take a look at, she very faith-based, and she was setting up her will and living trust and all this kind of stuff so that if something happened to her, she could take care of her parents, right? Or her parents would be taken care of. She knew they were getting older and possibly, and I need to check base with her. It's been a while. She set everything up so that her parents would be taken care of. And I'll never forget. She said, Sam, I really need to make sure that my cats are taken care of. And I thought, oh no, you are not leaving everything to your cats. And I never, up to that point, I had never mistaken her for a crazy cat lady, but she wasn't. Here's what she wanted. She wanted to make sure that they were adopted, not that thousands and thousands of dollars were going to go to her cats or her whole retirement and everything was going to go to take care of the cats. We had worked to where her house was paid for. All of her vehicles were paid for. She was doing very, very well. And she had a very good job. I do need to check in with her because she should be retiring this year or next, between 25 and 26, right at 60 years old. She'd have enough money and everything else. Very good, very well for herself. But going into COVID, she had pulled everything together and looked at some mutual funds and where she was going to put all of her stuff. Anyway, she made some intelligent decisions. one of the things she said, I don't really want to go with a mutual fund that has anything to do with any of the big social media outfits and the big tech companies and stuff like that. And I said, well, then you're probably not going to be able to invest in any mutual fund because they've all got stock in all of them, right? And so anyway, she found stuff she was interested in. And I said, okay, leave it alone. Do that, check your quarterlies and things like that. She called during COVID and said, what do I do? And I asked her the question, are you losing sleep? Boom, boom, boom. I said, well, let's give it a few months and let's go back and we'll revisit it. So after we came out of COVID, we were looking at them and I said, why did you select these funds? And she just said, well, the company, you ready for this? She liked the names of the companies.
Sometimes.
And so I said, okay, so let's take a look. What are they involved in? Durable medical devices and goods.
Oh, wow.
She had one mutual fund that was just loaded with that type of stuff. Her funds went through the roof.
I'll bet.
So she was like, oh, I guess I made a right decision. I said, yeah, but that's really not. Well, I can't argue with you, I guess. So, don't panic. Don't panic. If you are in a situation where you're concerned about the stock market, you're concerned about the economy and things like that, talk to people who know. If you're having trouble paying your bills, talk to a financial coach. Talk to somebody who can work you through your budgeting process and where your money's going and pay a whole lot of attention to where you're spending. But leave your 401k and leave your investments alone.
Yeah, never. If you don't have a financial advisor and you're losing sleep over your stuff, get one.
Mm-hmm.
And use one that people have used and trust. Don't panic and go in and do things that you'll regret later.
And that's what happens. That's what happens. I had a guy I worked with once, and this was back in the late 90s, early 2000, when you were first able to get online access to your accounts, right? He would check it every day. And they locked him out and said, you cannot make any more changes. You have made more changes on your account than any 10 people in the company. And so combined. And he was like, well, what do I do, Sam? What do I do? What do I do? And he was one of these really excitable guys. Great guy, great manager. But he would I said, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Well, let's check it in 6 months. Checked it in 6 months and it was all over the place. Well, you know what happened early 2000, 2001, 2002. And, but he did fine. So yeah, just leave it alone. You can't be checking the crazy thing every day.
Or if you check it every day, just check it to be in the know and not do things. And again, I'm not a financial advisor or financial planner or any of that, but I know several good people I could recommend you to if you need one.
And me too.
Don't go in with just half the information you need. Don't do things that you might regret later.
Right.
Whenever you're in panic, that's not the time to make a decision.
Right. If you're in panic mode, you're right. It truly isn't. I have a couple of financial planners I work with, and my favorite, she gets a kick out of folks, and they come in, and usually that's the back referral that I get. But they come in and they're not even hardly paying their bills, and they've been told they need to have a retirement plan and mutual fund and stuff like that, and they're not paying their bills. And she won't set up an account for them unless they are adamant. She'll refer them to me to get their budgeting and to get their financial lives in order before they start doing something like that, pay off some debt. Because here's what happens. Folks go in, they start and they have an extra $100 or $200. And right now, I think you can start an investment account for like $50. And so there's a lot of unscrupulous folks out there that will take that $50 and you're going to lose it. And, come the next payday or the next time that the money is due to be withdrawn from your account for your brand new mutual fund, you're not going to have it. Or it's going to take groceries off your table or what. But she asks them about their budget, where they at, how much, is this extra money that you're putting away? Or is this something you are just scraping together to put away? And are you going to have to scrape it together every month to put it away? Yes, I believe in savings. But if you can't pay your bills, you're going to get in more trouble than by putting away all this extra money and losing stuff,
And you don't have to start big.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 63, and I know a lot of people in my situation that may have, for whatever reason, they don't have an investment fund right now.
Right.
They kind of feel like they need to start big and build it up so there's something there when they're ready to retire. And
Right.
Again, talk to your planner.
Right.
For me right now, it works to do small amounts.
Yes. Yes. Well, I know.
I'm figuring small amounts is a great time to buy, depending
Yes.
on what I'm looking at. And I let my advisor take care of it. She had pretty much as carte blanche to do what she thinks is the best for me. And for the most part, right now, we're just sitting on it because she said it's only a loss if you start moving stuff around.
Yes. I know Rita restarted her 401k a few years back, and there's a company match and everything else. And if your company has a match and you can afford it, then yes, I strongly recommend that you contribute up to what the company says. So if the company matches 3%, then put 3%. If you don't have anything. Now, the federal law prohibits up to a certain amount. I think 6%. I don't know. It's different with every 401k. So don't take me at my word there. You have to look at the 401k. But Rita started back with the minimum. And so we've just, the statements are piled up over here. Okay. I opened one at the end of the year and it's like, oh, she's doing pretty good. So I just left him and I told her, I says, it's looking good. It's okay. It's not, it's, you're not going to be able to retire on it, but she will be able to do some of the things, right now, but in another 10 years, she'll be in a lot better shape. Anyway, you just have to trust that you made the right decisions. And then like you said, find that financial planner that you trust.
And that it has the results.
Yes.
Working with what you want to work with.
Yeah.
And I would say the biggest thing is if you are really nervous, don't suddenly decide to do something.
Yes.
Don't touch anything without getting good advice.
Yes.
Good assistance. Because most of the time when we're in a panic or we're in a real tight spot, we're not thinking our clearest, and we don't want to do things that don't necessarily have to be done right now just because the news and now everybody else is screaming about the stock market.
Right.
Be careful where you get your information from. And again, that's why you need a good financial advisor and financial planner to help with that. Because if I were to just go by what I see on the news or, go out and look at E-Trade, number one, I don't understand what it means. So I'm not going to make a very good decision on my own. And number two, I might, in a panic, do something that ordinarily I wouldn't have done.
Right. Well, and that's what a good financial planner will do for you. First off, when you first started with them, they will have asked your question, what's your long-term goals? What's your short-term goals? Are you okay with risky investments? Are you not okay? What's your risk? And all of them, all the good ones have a program where they ask you the questions, they plug your information in, they plug your income in, they plug your future income in, they plug your social security, they plug all of that stuff in, and it will show you, okay, you want to have this much money by the time you retire. This is where you have to start. But you only have this much, so we start here and then go from there. And they'll show you what your plan looks like. And then once you've made that decision, you stick with it. At my age, I almost have to go with the high risk, high yield.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And so, but then I've always been that way. That's just my nature. And it's worked sometimes and it's failed sometimes,
Which they all do.
Yeah. That's life.
Mm-hmm.
But don't panic. Don't panic about your finances, especially your investments and your retirement and stuff like that. I was talking to a young couple the other day, and I asked them what their long-term goals were. Oh, we want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, and all this stuff that the hype is. And I know exactly where it came from, and I had to chuckle, and I said, "So what are you doing?" Well, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that. I said, so let me ask you a question. Where are you living right now? Well, I'm living with my parents. Okay. Y'all are a couple. You have a child, and you're living with your parents. What's your plan for housing? Oh, we're going to buy a house. I said, when are you going to buy a house? 3 to 5 years. I said, so you're planning on living with your parents for 3 to 5 years. You're crazy. And that's exactly what I said to him. I said, right now, you guys are arguing over little silly stuff is brought on because of you're living with your parents. You have a bedroom in your parents' home. Are you paying rent? Yeah. How much? And I don't know, it was like $300-400. And I said, you don't know what the real world's like,
Mm-hmm.
And until you can live on a budget, until you can, so I asked him, I said, do you have a budget? He says, yeah, I spend boom, 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 boom. And I says, your budget's up here. And let me put it to you this way. That's not a budget. That's wishful thinking. And so I asked him to write it down. He hasn't written it down yet. It's been a couple of weeks. I'll have to get back to him. But, until you have a written down budget and you have a plan, and you have to take all those outside things into consideration. They want to buy a house. Okay. You have no rental history. You have no purchasing history.
Mm.
And so you have a decent credit score and you have a marginal down payment. You have no history. Well, I can get a letter from my mom and dad. What is? No. The finance companies, the mortgage companies aren't going to look at that. And so anyway, it's just,
and it's true. And I think a lot of times when we're young in that age group, we put the blinders on and we just see the end goal. And, it's so different now than it was when I was in that age group. And
yes.
It's just, I think people want that instant gratification, and planning doesn't equal instant gratification.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Planning is for long term. And when we look at things like buying a home, buying a condo, a big purchase, that's a long-term deal. That's not a short-term deal.
Yes.
And it requires planning. It requires answering hard questions, honestly.
Yep. It does.
And when you're working with someone, I don't want to say this wrong, but we all have a coach or a mentor, or a lot of us do. And they help us with one area of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And luckily, my coach and mentor is very good about, making sure that I plan for all the different areas of my life. But not all of them do that.
Right.
And not all of them give you realistic ideals. There's, as Paul talks about, there's the facts and there's truth.
Right.
And they don't always match.
Yeah.
But you still have to take into consideration to get from your fact to your truth. What do you actually have to do? Not pie in the sky.
Right. Right.
What are the actual steps that need to be done? And are you willing to do them?
And that is the biggest key. Are you willing to take those steps?
And usually when you're talking about things with finances, it's, are you willing to cut back on some things so that you have the money to set aside for that long-term plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
And
you're exactly right.
And I can tell you, most people, even in my age group, the answer is no.
Yeah, the answer is no.
They say
Right.
they are, but their behavior does not follow that. And I can readily admit to that.
Yeah, me too. And I do financial coaching, and I struggle with the same things. So, folks, in this day and age, in any day and age, don't panic about your finances. If you have questions, I'm a certified financial coach, not a financial planner. Linda knows some financial planners. I know financial coaches all across the country. If you'll reach out to us, if you have questions, we're more than willing to answer your questions and help you find the right fit and go from there. But you need to get your financial future in place. And that starts with budget. That starts with knowing where your finances are. And it also is do not panic.
That's right.
Ever. So, Linda, this has been fun.
Thank you. This has been great.
We will see y'all next week. Live intentionally. Be very, very blessed.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye-bye.